Hi again, this is Dylan from Teach English Spain, and this is another episode in the Teach English Spain podcast in which we talk about everything related to English language teaching in this wonderful city, wonderful country called Spain. So, in this episode, I would like to talk about what you need to know before accepting a place on a TEFL course. So, you've decided that you're interested in becoming an English language teacher here in Spain, or you'd like to find work in Spain. So you've decided you need training. So you've gone online and you've just been overwhelmed by the amount of different centres there are, by the amount of different course providers there are. And so you've decided that you want to take a 4-week intensive course, which is one of the most popular types of courses. But again, there are just so many to choose from. How do you know which one to choose? So here are a few things you really need to think about before making your final decision. And it's not only about price, remember. So first of all, location is very important. Basically, you have two choices. You can do the course in your home country, which will probably be cheaper if you can stay at home. And you won't need to pay probably so much for transport costs and everything like that, no flights, etc. On the other hand, if you come here to Spain and take your course, you'll have the opportunity to actually live for a few weeks in the country in which you're likely to be teaching, maybe even the city. So, for example, if you're thinking of going to Barcelona, it may make sense to take your course in Barcelona. If you want to come here in Granada, then of course it makes sense for you to come here and take our course. www.teachenglishspain.com, Trinity Cert TESOL courses in Granada. Excuse another blatant plug there. And the advantage of basically doing a course in the location in which you want to teach is you get to know about the place. You'll probably get to know what the students are like because you'll be teaching local students. So you get some first-hand experience of what they're like. And you'll probably do the course, excuse me, in a place which is also an English language centre, an English language academy. Not all courses are run in English language academies, but it seems to be a very popular combination where you have a language school and they also offer the training course. So you'll get to probably talk with some of the teachers, you'll see what it's like to actually work in this environment. And that can be really invaluable because then you'll be prepared for the reality of teaching here in Spain. And the other thing as well, of course, is that if you go to the place in which you'd like to be teaching, you'll also be able to start looking for jobs, get some local information about what the academies in that city, in that place are like. And who knows, you might even be offered a job before you finish the course, which would be fantastic, of course. So location is a major factor. The other thing, of course, is price. Now, lots of us are obviously driven by price, but if something's cheap, you've got to think, well, why is it so cheap? There's a TEFL course for €500 or £500 or dollars. You've got to think, why is it so much cheaper than the other courses? On the other hand, if it's €2,000, dollars or pounds, you've got to think, why is it so much more expensive? Okay, maybe they have a special offer, like you might be guaranteed a job at the end of the course. Now again, that may sound fantastic, but if you're guaranteed a job at the end of the course, what kind of job will you have? Okay, it might not be exactly what you want. So think carefully about that. So again, I think with price, sometimes it does make sense to pay a little bit more than the average because that suggests the quality is good. If a centre is proud of its quality, of the quality of its courses, then it's probably going to be a little bit more expensive. And that also brings me on to the next point. If your course is not accredited, then it will probably be cheaper. But if it's not accredited, then potential employers may think, I'm not sure about the quality of this particular TEFL course. Now, you may know this, but the most prestigious courses are the Cambridge CELTA and the Trinity Cert TESOL because they're accredited by famous institutions like Cambridge and like Trinity College London. And as a course provider of a Trinity Cert TESOL, I do have to pay Trinity quite a lot of money for them to send an inspector or a moderator to the centre on the last day of the course, but that actually validates the course. That means that the course, we have to actually meet the requirements of Trinity. We have to do a good job. If not, we could lose the accreditation. So think about that carefully. Lots of employers will only accept teachers. They'll only employ teachers who have a Trinity Cert TESOL or a Cambridge CELTA. So these courses are a bit more expensive, but you're much more likely to get jobs and to get better paid jobs if you have one of these two qualifications. So think carefully about going for a cheaper course. Now, another thing you need to really think about are the reviews from former trainees. Now, we all know that reviews are not always exactly accurate. People give reviews for various reasons. But if a centre has a lot of good reviews, and online now it's quite easy to check, that suggests it's quite a good place. And you might even want to actually ask the course provider if you can contact any former trainees. Okay, that might be some way of getting, well, slightly more kind of objective opinion about the course. So I would say try that. If your course provider doesn't really want to put you in touch with any former trainees, well, there's probably a reason for that, isn't there? So think carefully about that. Now, if you do end up having an interview, whether on Skype or actually at the course itself, it's very important to listen to your gut instinct, basically. If you don't seem to get on well with the interviewer, who is probably the director of the course, or maybe one of the course tutors, well, you've got to think, I'm going to spend 4 weeks, 120, 130 hours with this person. If we don't get on a personal level, that could be problematic. Okay, so that's also something to take into consideration. If you do go to the training centre, then just look around the training centre. What does it feel like? Does it seem like somewhere you'd be comfortable spending a lot of your time in? So again, these are impressions. They're not necessarily easy to measure, but I think listen to your gut instinct. If a centre doesn't seem right, then it may not be right for you. Now, as I said, you'll be spending a lot of time with your trainers, so it makes sense to check their credentials. A lot of unaccredited TEFL courses employ previous trainees. So I know of one place, I'm not going to mention it, but one of the trainees finished the course on the Friday and then they were offered a job as a trainer teaching the following week on a TEFL course. Now, I don't know about you, but I would want to be trained by someone who's got a lot of experience and they have advanced teaching or training qualifications. So in terms of the qualifications, one you might want to look out for is called a Delta diploma. And there again are Delta certificates or the diploma certificates from Trinity and from Cambridge. And these are advanced teaching qualifications. You need to teach a few years before you can be accepted on one of those courses. And they're equivalent to kind of an MA, a master's in teaching English as a foreign language. Again, some of the trainers might have a master's in applied linguistics or English language teaching or TESOL. So ask to see or ask to find out about your trainer's credentials. If they've only been teaching a couple of years, well, they may not be the best trainer available. If they've been teaching for a number of years, have lots of experience teaching, hopefully in the country you're working or you're planning to work in, then I think they'll have a lot of local knowledge, which is invaluable on a course like that. Now again, you might want to do some research in the training or teaching philosophy of the centre. Does it have a communicative approach? If they want you to write lesson plans according to a particular format, then or a particular model, find out a little bit about that model. It could be PPP, presentation, practice, production, which a lot of people think is quite old-fashioned now and not particularly effective in the classroom. Could be ESA, engage, study, activate. find out a little bit about what they promote, what kind of teaching philosophy they have. Okay, again, find out, do some research. There's lots of stuff available online, and see if it fits your likely approach towards teaching and learning. Now, all these things should be asked at the interview. So if you feel your interviewer is taking too much control and doesn't ask you if you have any questions, that's probably not a good sign. In most interviews for TEFL courses, the interviewer should ask you if you have any questions. So they should be willing and happy to answer any of your questions, or try to resolve any of your doubts, confirm, clarify any questions you have about the course. Now, in our course, we also give you some pre-course tasks. And pre-course tasks are really, really useful because they can prepare you for the course. You can get a lot of the work done before you start the course, which means you hit the ground running when you start the course and can really focus on developing practical skills to help you teach English as a foreign language. So again, it's like anything. If you're prepared, you're going to do a much better job. If you walk into the course and don't really know what you need to do and you have to learn new things right from the beginning of the course, then you will struggle because it's a very intensive course. So ask to see the pre-course tasks. Ask your interviewer to tell you about the pre-course tasks and why you have to do them and what they consist of. Another thing you really need to know, I think, before choosing your TEFL course is about the trainer's or the interviewer's knowledge of the local teaching context, especially if you do the course in a place in which you'd like to teach. So ask them a few questions about things like salary, the amount of teaching jobs, what it's like to actually teach, what the local students are like, what their needs are, everything like that, and you'll get a much better impression of the training centre. If they're not able to answer those questions particularly well, then you've got to think, maybe they're not really going to prepare me for the reality of teaching in this local teaching context. And another question you can ask is about the failure rate of the course. So not everyone passes TEFL courses. Some people drop out because the course is very intensive, or they drop out because they realise it's not for them, or they drop out for other reasons, maybe family issues or personal problems. But people do drop out and people do fail. And if your course provider tells you there's a 100% success rate and that everyone who takes the course passes, well, again, that might be a warning sign that the course isn't particularly rigorous, and maybe the standards are not quite as high as they should be. So be skeptical about these things. If a course promises a 100% pass rate, I know from training people for 8 years, not everyone is cut out to be a English as a foreign language teacher. So we do have to fail people occasionally. Now, another thing to take into consideration is that if the interview process is legitimate, then if you're not suitable for the course, the person should tell you that. If your English isn't good enough, or the person has any other doubts maybe about your personal qualities, maybe you're someone who gets very stressed quite easily and doesn't deal well with working under pressure, the course may not be for you. And that interviewer should tell you that at the course, in the interview. If they don't, then maybe they're just more interested in taking your money. So, just to summarise, get as much information as you can about the course and about what it's like working in the local teaching context before you take the interview. Write a set of interview questions. I think I have some on the blog actually at www.teachenglishspain. If I don't, then I'll put some interview questions up that you might want to ask. And just be as prepared as possible. You will be tested at the interview, but you're not expected to be an expert in the interview. You're expected to show potential as an English teacher. And if you can do that, then hopefully you'll get accepted on the course you want. Okay, so if you are interested in taking a course here in Granada, we have our Trinity Cert TESOL, and you can find more information at www.teachenglishspain.com. Okay, I hope to speak to you in the next podcast. Bye for now.